On today's primetime local news, a successful weekend for the largest Christmas market in the Midwest.
Atmosphere was Christmassy and it was a really good weekend.
And more Christmas tradition in the border city, a look back at the Festival of Trees on this week's retrospect. Plus, for the first time in 18 years, the Holy Rosary volleyball team wins the 3A zone over the weekend.
Hey, I'm Eric Bay, and now vaping has become a fairly big conversation here across the country, and today we are taking a look at what some local youth are doing to raise awareness on the consequences of vaping, especially here in the community of Lloydminster. So we're going to have some more from back here throughout tonight's newscast.
Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening, I'm Judy Gabriel. It was a packed weekend for the largest Christmas market in the Midwest. Now that the 31st year is under wraps, the Lloydminster Christmas Craft Fair was a huge success for the Border City Farmers Market and Lloydminster Chamber of Commerce. The Lloyd X was home to Christmas shoppers this past weekend, with the fair seeing more than 10,000 attendees.
Over the whole weekend, it was around 13,000. Friday and Saturday were about the same. There was just over 5,300 people both days. And then Sunday, we haven't really counted the numbers, but around 13,000 people were through the doors.
The fair had over 400 booths, and the vendors came from all across Canada. Alice Patterson says the people that came out to the craft fair truly enjoyed all the handmade products and the diverse vendors that were displayed this year.
From Manitoba, some from southern Alberta. They come from all over Canada. And lots of them that we spoke to on the weekend, they like coming here because of the atmosphere and because our customers are so great and everybody is so great.
And if you plan on going next year, the Christmas Craft Fair is set to take place November 20th and to the 22nd. Now that the holidays are almost here, Christmas trees and decorations are being put up in most parts of the border city, and it seems the Lloyd Mall is already in the festive spirit, setting up a few light displays throughout the mall. This was a move to start the holiday festivities early with some unique items. One of the light displays is one of a kind and the only one you can find in Canada. Lloyd Mall has set this up as a thank you for the continued support over the years and something to bring families together.
It is important for us to put this display here in the mall because we want the shoppers of the Lloyd Mall to feel very special, and we want them to feel the ambience, to feel special, and to make the Lloyd Mall their home this holiday season.
Although the mall is done with all their decorations, they encourage customers to stop by and take some pictures with the displays. The Border City is definitely feeling the holiday spirit with another event that dates back to 1991, back for another year. This time around, the theme of the annual event is Once Upon a Tree. In this week's retrospect, our Abby St. John takes a look at what this year event has to offer.
The Festival of Trees raises money for the Richard Larson Bar Colony Foundation, which in turn supports the promotion and growth of arts, culture, and history in our community. An event like this really raises awareness for the projects that we're working on and gives us a chance to explain why those projects are important to us and to future generations, and brings some knowledge to the museum and to the foundation.
Flash forward to today, and the Festival of Trees continues to spread the Christmas spirit throughout Lloydminster by showcasing beautiful trees and putting on different events for everyone.
I think for a lot of people, because it goes back a long ways in our history in the city of Lloydminster, it's a great lead-off to the Christmas season. So it's that opportunity for people to get into the Christmas spirit, for not just the people that want to attend the gala, but for families, young children, senior citizens to come out and see our beautifully decorated trees.
The biggest part of the Festival of Trees is seeing the different trees on display. Over the years, they have purchased different trees of different heights and colors.
Sometimes we may have looked at using different colors of trees, and then we've looked at different heights. But I think this year we're going with around the 7-foot tree, and we may not just have a few green trees, there may be some other colors thrown in there.
Leading up to the gala, there will be a Cookies and Carols event at Lakeland College on November 23rd from 1 to 3 p.m.
Lakeland College students and instructors who are going to be performing lovely Christmas carols. We'll have cookies and punch available for people. And very exciting is that our restored first pumper truck of the City of Lloydminster is going to be set outside so people can be having the opportunity to see it and touch it, actually, if they would like. And so that's extremely exciting.
Having the restored pumper truck is important to Dawn McKenzie because it's all about keeping the city's heritage alive.
To me, keeping alive our heritage is really important, and I think in Canada sometimes we haven't worked hard enough to make sure that our heritage, for such as our old buildings, are kept alive and kept there for our younger generations.
The Festival of Trees Once Upon a Tree Gala will be held on November 28th, starting at 6 p.m. Tickets for the gala are $65 and are on sale at the Lloydminster Culture and Science Centre or on Eventbrite. All the proceeds will be going to the Richard Larson Bar Colony Foundation. For this week's Retrospect, I'm Abby St. John.
Retrospect is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Webb's Machinery, your New Holland dealer in Vermilion, Bakerville, and Lamont.
Back here again, and today we are talking a little bit with YLL My Home, and I'm joined now by Laura Lee Marin, who is with the organization, and we're talking a little bit about the parent connection that you guys are putting on and have been putting on. So first off, can you tell us a little bit about what the connection actually is?
So we're hoping to be able to connect parents to resources in the community that would help them through their parenting journey.
And now, obviously, with that, you guys have been putting on a few different meetings, and you have quite the focus here this week. So can you talk a little bit about what you guys are focusing on here this Wednesday?
So we talked with parents in the community to understand what it is they would need information on. And so we were really looking at mental health and learning to be a good listener with teens. So those were our first two sessions. This week, we're going to have a conversation about drugs and really hoping to share with parents some information about recognizing the warning signs if their child is maybe using some substances, why they might be using, just some good information around typical drugs we might see like alcohol, tobacco, vaping, cannabis, and then how to build their resilience of their kids so they choose not to use substances, and how to engage in good conversations with their child around substance use and making that strong connection.
And now if some of these parents do want a little bit more on this information, obviously you guys do have a wide range of topics here. How can they find out about this and join in on these conversations?
So once all of the parent connection workshops are complete, our last one is on December 4th, we'll be putting webinars, so they'll be able to go back and access the information on our website, yllmyhome.com.
All right, thank you for this, and we're going to have some more from back here, continuing with YLL My Home and all the work they are doing here in Lloydminster. But before that, we're going to head back into the studio.
Well, it's +2 here in Lloydminster, and fairly sunny day that we had this afternoon. It was raining this morning, but that definitely died off, and the clouds did open up for the afternoon. There's a little bit of cloud coverage here right now, which will start to get a little bit more heavier as we move closer into the evening, with the wind gusts at 21 kilometers per hour coming in from the west. Right now across the region, +4 in Cold Lake and Athabasca, +1 in Whitecourt, 2 in Edson, 3 in Jasper, -1 in Rocky Mountain House, 0 in Red Deer, and 6 out in Edmonton. And on the Saskatchewan side, 2 in North Battleford, Saskatoon, Melfort, and Prince Albert, and 3 out in Meadow Lake. Now, tonight in North Battleford, overnight sitting at -4 degrees with mostly cloudy skies. The wind will calm down to 11 kilometers per hour coming in from the west, which will carry over into tomorrow, where the daytime high will be 0 degrees with a mostly cloudy day. In Cold Lake overnight, same deal, -4 overnight with mostly cloudy skies, and that wind will stay steady into tomorrow at 13 kilometers per hour coming in from the northwest, where their daytime high tomorrow will be -2 with, again, mostly cloudy skies. Here in Lloydminster overnight, as the cloud coverage definitely becomes a little bit more thicker, it should disperse into tomorrow, where we're sitting at -4 overnight, and the wind will slow down to 17 kilometers per hour coming in from the west-northwest, and then tomorrow will be 13 kilometers per hour coming in from the north at -1 and mostly cloudy skies with a low of -4. And then on Wednesday will be a mix of sun and cloud throughout the day with a high of -2 and a low of -8. And then on Thursday it should be a nice sunny day with a high of +1 and a low of -6. That wraps up your 3-day forecast. We'll have more news and coming up after the break.
Welcome back. Edmonton-based Aurora Cannabis says a planned facility in southeastern Alberta remains an important part of its future outlook, despite an announcement last week that it would reel in an aggressive expansion plan amid disappointing recreational sales. Aurora says it would be stopping work at a facility in Denmark and slowly work in Medicine Hat on its Aurora Sun greenhouse. It says about 238,000 square feet of the Medicine Hat greenhouse could be operational in 2020. Compared to initial plans to fully commission the 1.6 million square foot greenhouse next year. Spokeswoman Michelle Lafleur says additional operations at the facility will be activated as global demand develops, with a targeted date of 2021 for full operations. And now here are your agriculture prices for today.
We're a part of less than 5% of Canadian auto body shops and Lloydminster's only locations with certified collision care recognition at City Centre Auto Body.
This weekend was a busy one on the field. While both high schools had their provincial playdowns going on, we're going to throw it first to some future high school ballers. The Lloydminster Red Dogs hosted their Tier 2 Bantam Provincial Finals on Saturday versus the Stettler Cougars. Led by head coach Vince Oreo, the Red Dogs had already won the Wheatland Bantam Football League, but were now on to another test. The Red Dogs took the championship, winning 30-21. This season, Lloydminster only had one Bantam football team rather than two. This weekend also saw the Holy Rosary Raiders volleyball teams host the 3A zones. The winner of the zones gained entry into provincials next weekend.
Holy Rosary played host to J.A. Williams, St. Paul, Cold Lake, Westwood, Holy Trinity, McTavish, and Father Mercady. The boys finished second in their division in the round robin and ended up having to play St. Paul in the semifinals. Unfortunately for Holy Rosary, St. Paul's hitting was too much to take. The boys still got to go on to the bronze medal game and came out with a medal.
Overall, I was happy to share the core for the last time this school with especially my teammate, because I think this was the best year for me and my teammates.
St. Paul would go on to win zones, beating McTavish in the final. This is the end of the line for the Raiders boys.
I'm going to remember just us being like tighter than family, like hanging out right after practice and stuff. I'm going to miss that.
The girls wrote a different story. They finished first in the round robin and made their way to the gold medal game. St. Paul was the only thing standing in the Raiders' way. After trading sets back and forth, the Raiders, led by Janae Jordan, started taking it to the Saints. The Raiders would go on and win the final set 15-10. This is the first time in 18 years the Raiders have won zones.
You know, we've been building this program for a long time, and there's some tough teams in our zone, and it was just nice to finally break through.
It feels really well earned. I feel like we've worked really hard to get to this point in the season, and it's kind of just been the dream the whole time, and it feels really good to finally have accomplished it. It feels like I've been building up since grade 8.
The Raiders will go on to provincials next weekend in St. Paul.
The Rustlers basketball teams found themselves on opposite ends of a weekend sweep against the Concordia Thunder, which in both cases has significant standing implications. The women won 70-49 and 65-57, though they struggled at times with a physical Thunder defense.
Contact, I think that's usually what we struggle with, is if we don't get calls or stuff don't go our way, maybe we kind of shy away from it instead of going into it more.
Head coach Chris King is pleased with the continued excellence with the team's post play, which produced 60 points.
Well, it's nice to have them going in for each other and always having like a big post presence in there, and it allows us to get some of our younger post players in the game and have a little bit of a safety net.
The men couldn't lock up the defending silver medalists defensively, losing 88-76 and 84-73.
We just didn't give all on the court, especially in defense. Well, they had a lot of open threes they were shooting, and they got confidence.
As the quarters go on, we start picking it up, but like it takes too long for our energy to get there. So I'll say it's our energy pretty much that's lacking right now.
Both teams are back in action this weekend against the Augustana Vikings. And now to our Abby St. John, who's got the weather.
Thanks, Evan. Well, taking a look at our satellite radar, nothing too extreme happening. We're sitting at a fairly clear time here in Lloydminster, so nothing too concerning in regards to snow or rain mixture, just cloud coverage. And cloud coverage is making its way up through the entire Lakeland region and even into Saskatchewan as well. Down in North Battleford and Maidstone, seeing some bit of mix of rain and snow. We did see rain here earlier today, but it definitely died off closer to the afternoon, which was nice to see. Now taking a look at current temperatures, 2 still here in Lloydminster, as well as in Green Lake and North Battleford, 4 in Macklin, 1 in Maidstone and St. Walburg, 3 in Meadow Lake and Pearson, and -2 up in Isle Cross. And on the Alberta side, 4 in Cold Lake, Lac La Biche, and in Vermilion, 6 in Edmonton, 2 in St. Paul and Vegreville, 3 in Provost, Wainwright, and out in Bonnyville. And tomorrow, -1 is the daytime high here in Lloydminster, as well as in Marwayne and Vermilion, 0 in Provost, Wainwright, Edmonton, and in Vegreville, -2 in St. Paul, Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and -3 in Lac La Biche. And on the Saskatchewan side, -9 up in Isle Cross, -4 in Green Lake, -2 in Pearson and St. Walburg, -3 in Meadow Lake, -1 in Maidstone, 1 in Macklin, and 0 out in North Battleford. Overnight across the region, fairly clear skies in Isle Cross, Unity, and Pearson. A lot of cloud coverage over in Meadow Lake, Bonnyville, Provost, Paradise Hill. And then in Mirnam and Wainwright, there is some chance of some snowfall for them. And temperatures ranging between -11 and -3, with Isle Cross sitting at -11 overnight. So it's going to get pretty cold for them. On your school day forecast for tomorrow, 8 a.m., it will be -4 with mostly cloudy skies, which will be the trend throughout the entirety of the day. Recess will be -3, and then by the time lunch rolls around, it will be -2, which will remain the temperature by the time school is out and into closer to the evening, where it'll drop down to -4 as the daytime low for tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, a mix of sun and cloud throughout the day with a high of -2 and a low of -8. And then on Thursday, it should be a nice sunny day with a high of +1 and a low of -6. +3 on Friday with mostly sunny skies with a little bit of cloud coverage throughout the day. And then on Saturday, it gets up to +7 as the daytime high and a low of -1 with a mix of sun and cloud. And then on Sunday, it will be a high of +2 and a low of -2 with a mix of sun and cloud throughout the day. And then to start your week off again on Monday will be a high of -1 and a low of -6 with mostly cloudy skies. And we're around our averages for this time of year, with our average high being -4 and our average low being -12. And we're a little bit warmer than our averages are telling us, which is a good sign. That wraps up your 7-day forecast. We'll have more news and the question of the day coming up after the break.
Back here once again, and today we have been taking a look with YLL My Home and the Parent Connection coming up here this Wednesday. But now I'm actually joined by Alexa Blind with the Lloydminster Youth Committee, and you guys are going to actually be there this Wednesday talking about vaping. So first off, I guess, can you tell me a little bit about the work you guys have been doing and why you guys have been doing this work on vaping?
So our goal is to really reduce the use of vaping among youth in our community, because as a student myself in Lloydminster, I've seen it a lot in school bathrooms and hallways, really anywhere. And so the number of youth vaping has raised a lot, and we're really trying to change that.
No, for sure. Obviously, it's come up quite a bit here recently, for sure. And now you guys have actually put out a couple videos yourself. So can you talk a little bit about the videos and kind of why you guys did put out these videos here surrounding vaping? Excuse me.
So right now we have 2 videos out. There's one where we do a reaction to a candy jar visual that we made, and one where we're talking about vaping and the effects it has on our community. And we felt that it was really a great way to spread our message, not only to just our community, to many other communities as well, to really bring awareness to this issue.
And now obviously you guys are still continuing this work here on vaping in the community, and you will actually be speaking to some younger students here coming up. So can you talk about that and I guess why you guys are still continuing to send out this message, especially to younger students?
So right now we're developing a presentation about the effects of vaping and how we can prevent it. So we're bringing that to a bunch of the younger students, because hopefully we can prevent them to grow up and be influenced to vape, and yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you for this so much. And we are going to have some more from back here, continuing with vaping and also what YLL My Home and the Lloydminster Youth Committee is doing. But before that, we're going to head back into the studio.
Well, today's question of the day really had a lot of people weighing in and talking about their personal experiences on Facebook, which was really good. The question was, should parents give their teens a car and pay for gas and upkeep, or is it better for teenagers to work to buy their own car? Now, I love this story because I bought a car from my father once, and it was a Firefly, and it was $1,200 when I bought it, and I couldn't afford it after because I couldn't pay for the gas and stuff like that. So I had to work, and I parked it, and I had to save all that money, and then finally I was able to do that. I took the bus for a while. But I really believe in, like, you know, getting something, but as well working towards it. What about you?
Yes, I actually recently just got my first car, and I did pay for, I do pay for it.
Yeah.
My parents definitely have helped me out, but with the idea of I'm going to pay them back,
which is good.
And you know, they're always there to help, but it just feels great that I was able to do this on my own. It was my own signature, it was everything. And a lot of the comments are saying the same thing, that we'll get them a car, but they have to pay for gas and upkeep, or they have to pay for the car, and if they need help, we'll definitely help them out. Some people said, I'll pay for half of it, they have to save up and then we'll match it, that sort of thing. But just reading just one line from one of the comments, respect for your belongings is way higher than when you have to pay for it, which is so true, because you've seen cases where parents will get their kids cars, and they don't really care about it because they don't have any financial burden to it. So they'll wreck it, and then their parents will buy them a new car, or they'll do they just won't take care of it like if it was their own car, which I think is super valuable and super important.
And gives you a lot of responsibility, which is a good thing. It gives you, you know, you take care of it more. You're right. And it's time for pets, of course. A new day, a new week, and a new time for you guys to get in your pets for the pet of the week, of course. and get a chance to win a gift card from the Pet Pad. Here are some of the cute ones that you guys sent.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to have them featured on Pet of the Day. Your name will be entered into a weekly draw for a gift certificate from the Pet Pad.
In studio once again with me is the lovely Josh Ryan.
Always like the word lovely.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's the best way to describe you, man.
Okay.
Well, I think we're just going to kick it off here with a little bit of local sports here. The Holy Rosary Raiders volleyball teams were hosting their zone championships this past weekend.
Yeah, and it was a good one for those who weren't able to make it down. Men's volleyball winning bronze, women's volleyball off to the provincial championship. Obviously, a gold medal. It's their first in, I believe, 18 years. We're having that conversation off camera. Also the first time they've hosted in some time. So with a number of girls in their grade 12 year, it's a memorable way to finish off that time at Holy Rosary, getting that provincial championship spot, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. They got 4 grade 12s on that team. And, you know, they were just talking about how they've been building this program for so long. People like Janae Jordan really stepped up in that final game and pushed them over the edge just to take over, you know, some teams that they're pretty familiar with, all being in the Northeast, and finally putting them, you know, just over that gap so then they can participate in provincials next weekend in St. Paul there.
Indeed, and obviously for Janae Jordan, it's been a long road from where she had shoulder problems when she was 15, but a little bit of Team Sask experience and getting to play right away on this Holy Rosary team helped pave the way for that performance. Another Raiders team was in action over the weekend. They, of course, win pretty handily to go on to the provincial final where they will once again face the Cochrane Cobras. It wasn't as great a result for the Lloydminster Barons.
Yeah, the Barons, unfortunately, just losing by 1 point. This is actually the 3rd year in the row that the Barons and the Austin O'Brien Crusaders have played, and every single year it's been a 1-point game. With Josh, you mentioning that you know, it was a missed field goal last season. Unfortunately, this year, you know, they just couldn't get that bounce in their favor.
And obviously, you saw the loss of some of those key guys from last year's provincial championship on both the defensive and the offensive end. Even a guy like Tyler Marilise played a big role in their offense last year. Obviously, Matt Moore and Anton Amandrew did what they could, but you're only going to be able to get so much with a couple of key veterans when you have to rely on some really young guys to step up. They got great performances from young guys last year, just not quite enough in this case. The question is now whether the Raiders can do the job against a Cochrane High team that has beaten them for, 5 years in a row now. So it's going to be a very uphill battle in that final, but I know they've been building towards that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, 5th year in a row, and Cochrane's taken all those matchups. Head coach Vince Oreo, he really likes to hound on that defense. So we'll see, you know, maybe they can cause some turnovers and really try and get the ball running, get their running game going as well.
For sure.
And, you know, finally on the weekend, there was quite a bit of Rustlers action taking place at the Lakeland College Gym. And Josh, would you just like to touch on that, you know, the basketball and volleyball performances?
For sure. Obviously, a great weekend for volleyball, winning all 4 matchups, particularly on the women's side, because this is a team that was expected to be one of the best, if not the best teams in the North. They take both matches, including a 5-set win on the road. Men's volleyball winning in 4 sets both nights. On the basketball side of things, tough time for the men's basketball team. Women sweeping the weekend, and they maintain their top spot in the North. But again, volleyball is the story. Women's volleyball still showing strong despite losing 3 fifth-year All-Stars last year. And men's volleyball once again paving the way for a potential run at the playoffs this year.
And that Augustana team on the women's side, they're ranked 8th in all of Canada. So it's not like that's some slouch of a team. And to beat them twice, that is really something. It really gets the momentum going heading into their semester break there. They really want to try and get that momentum and really take over the ACAC North.
Absolutely, and some momentum was finished off, if we can end really quickly, with, of course, the Bantam football team in town winning a provincial championship, also taking place at Holy Rosary.
Yeah, the Red Dogs took part in a game against the Stettler Cougars where they won 30-21. So a little bit of a tight game there. Vince Oreo, once again, head coach there. So, you know, I bet he's thinking maybe I can get 2 provincial championships this year. I guess we'll really see what they can do there with, you know, as he did win with maybe some future Holy Rosary Raiders there. I guess only time will tell.
Only time will tell, indeed. Obviously a busy afternoon for him coaching 2 different teams, but that's a big thing why both the Barons teams and the Holy Rosary teams have been successful, is that pipeline. They've had great football coaches in the minor system. The Red Dogs program obviously has been successful in the past, and you're seeing that in the last couple of years with a provincial championship. You're now starting to see that with a Bantam team getting better and better too.
Well, I guess we'll see if those Bantam kids in the future can really help out the high school programs.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Once again, in studio with Josh Ryan. And Josh, you know, in the sports world, there's been a couple teams in the NHL who have really started to climb up those rankings, and a couple who I don't want to say are disappointing, but might be having lackluster seasons. One of those, as of late, is the Calgary Flames, especially with their offense. What's going on there?
I think what's going on there is a struggle to maintain expectations from last year. Obviously, there were high hopes for this team after a promising 2019 campaign that ended earlier than they would have expected, rather, in the postseason, losing to the Avalanche. Then going into this year, there were a couple of changes that came into the lineup. Obviously, at goaltender, that's one of them, losing Mike Smith, who many people maligned, but was still a relatively stable player, even though he had a couple of bad games. His numbers weren't as bad as people made them out to be. He's been good for the Oilers, and now I think the biggest issue has been on offense. Simply, I think a lot of players struggle with that expectation going into the year. No more so than Johnny Gaudreau, of course, which has brought up, I think, some slightly surprising trade rumors there, or suggestions that they should consider trading him. To me, until you get to about the 30-35 game mark, I think some of those are a little bit too preposterous to go over. I mean, we saw the St. Louis Blues come after December and come back to win the Stanley Cup. So I really do think it's a little bit early for some of the talks they've had, but it's still alarming, certainly as a Flames fan.
For sure, and you know what's lots of people aren't really realizing, they're barely outside of the wild card there, so it's not like they're doing bad by any means. And you know, you talk about trade rumors and Johnny Hockey. I think that would be totally the wrong move. He's a guy that you want to build your team around. In my personal opinion, I think it's players like Sean Monahan, those kind of players that really need to step up and really support Johnny Hockey so he can start producing like someone like Tkachuk is this year. And
certainly they expressed frustration after the blowout loss the other night against the Vegas Knights. We'll see how they respond. Another story in the hockey world that's also not very positive is, of course, Matt Calvert getting hit in the face with a shot and the ref not blowing the play dead. And many people were wondering why such a situation would take place. Part of it is because of the possession rule.
Yeah, for sure. Vancouver Canucks had the puck, and you know, they had the pulled goalie, extra attacker. They were maintaining possession very well. And so I guess the refs decided just not to blow it down, part of the NHL rule book. However, you know, when it's a player's, I don't want to say life, but potentially his life on the line, I think that's where you got to bend the rules a little bit in that rule book. Nathan MacKinnon, after that game, was mentioning, you know, it's one thing if it's a broken foot, it's not altering your life forever. But when you're getting a puck in the head and you're bleeding out of your head, that's a little different. That's the time where, you know, you got to bend those rules and you got to call that play dead there.
And certainly you can see him struggle to get up and then fall down again after that first attempt. So it's not a situation where a guy will try to fight through a broken foot or something of that nature.
For sure, and he's a tough guy. You know, he took on Zach Kassian the other night when the Oilers and the Avalanche met up there. And I mean, he doesn't want his team to lose because of that. And as a result, Vancouver did score a goal on that play. So that's too bad.
Too bad indeed.
And you know, another Canadian team that was on action rather, is the Toronto Raptors. There, I know you're a huge fan of the Raptors.
What you don't say.
As well as basketball in general. You want to just give us the rundown on their road trip?
Well, 3-2 road trip with missing Kyle Lowry, their kind of emotional, spiritual, and point guard. So emotional, spiritual leader, certainly. Then Serge Ibaka, who's a big part of the starting lineup on some nights, but also a big part of the rotation in general. Losing those two guys and OG Anunoby for a stretch of games and still beating teams like the Lakers and the Trailblazers is pretty significant. People are starting to realize just how legit Pascal Siakam is. So very excited to see where that goes. And just to jump quickly to another Canadian team or two that obviously was a big result over the weekend was the semis in the CFL. You have the Blue Bombers and the Ticats now playing for the Grey Cup.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if people really saw the Blue Bombers maybe even getting to this point.
Yeah,
they had to go through a challenging Stampeders, and then the Rough Riders, who just couldn't execute in the red zone there. A couple of field goals from within the 5-yard line, so that's just poor execution on their point. But, you know, I'm excited to see this battle, especially Ticats. You know, they were the top record in the CFL this season, so should be a good one to duke it out.
Absolutely, and you have some interesting storylines, certainly, with the Blue Bombers, Caleros playing QB there. That's a pretty fun fan base that doesn't get as much reputation for being a fun fan base, basically because the Rider Nation essentially dominates the CFL conversation. But it should be an interesting final. I know that it's not going to be as exciting for some people in this area because we don't have the Eskimos and we don't have the Riders, but I'm sure it will still be good football nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it myself. We'll see.